Let's talk about it.
Hello and welcome back to Thicc Radio, the award-winning podcast where we talk about gaining, fetishism, and everything plus size. I'm James.
And I'm Tim, so let's get into it. Today we're continuing our series of dinner table talks. We've got a few guests joining us, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Jacob Gregory, or Jacob-the-Rogue on Instagram. Hi.
Hi, I'm Kyle, more known as chonkycub on Instagram, Twitter, and other platforms.
Hi y'all, I'm Fuad. You can find me on Instagram as Fuadito. You can call me Fuad, Fuadito, Waton, whatever you want.
Hi, my name is Shayne. You can find me as hichew98 on most platforms.
Well, hi everyone. Welcome to the recording. I'm so glad that we get to see some returning faces and some new faces. So before we get into the nature of today's conversation, do people want to maybe give a little snapshot of their gaining journeys and tell us a little bit about themselves?
I've always been a big girl. I was born 9.5 pounds for, I don't know exactly what the conversion is, but like I've always been big. It's just kind of like, I've like, it's like fluctuated a bit, but I've always been built like a Pixar mom pretty much. And yeah, and then as I've gotten older, I've just been like, let me embrace this community a little more because I've never really felt like attractive as a child, especially as the fat, like I call myself the fat black sheep of the family. And so from like finally finding community with that has been amazing.
Well, my gaining journey has a lot of years. I think all my life really, because I've always been one. But it's only in the recent years, the past 10 to last 5 years, where I really like embraced it. And it's made me so happy. And it's made me more comfortable with my body, more confident. And I don't really have a weight goal anymore. I think I actually hit that mark a while ago and I keep getting a little heavier, but I'm just enjoying where it takes me.
I definitely always grew up as a chubby person. My progress has been more the mental headspace on like growing up, where I used to get bullied for being fat, gay, disabilities, and then the older as I got, the more I kind of learned to accept myself. And instead of seeing like my body is something I should feel ashamed for, I end up using it more for like, I feel sexy, I feel awesome. Lots of guys find me attractive. So I would say that's how my progress has been, more on the mental space, because right now I'm already big. I would consider myself as a maintainer. I would just gain the weight back that I'm just losing. But yeah, that's my progress.
Okay, for my journey, I've always been a very small guy, and I'm just really at the beginning of trying to gain muscle. Ideally, I would love to be a muscle daddy. So that's what I'm working on. I am gaining weight, so it's working.
Fabulous. And I love hearing that there is such this smattering of different experiences through life. You know, Jacob, I think aligning with many of us, when you grow up skinty and you don't necessarily feel, the most affirmed in your body. And so you go on a journey to find that. Shayne, for someone like yourself who grew up bigger, and Kyle, that sense of wanting to accrue some sense of confidence and self-love within the size that you've always carried. How beautiful. And then, Fuad and Jacob, the muscle, which it represents beautifully here. There's such a gorgeous smattering of different experiences. And today, in the round, we're talking about fat representation in video games. And I want to ask here for each of you, when it comes to, playing video games and really getting into it as an art form, growing up, was it ever a case of you identified with different characters? And if you did, were they characters of size?
So as a child, I felt a lot of shame for my size, most like extra, like from like with outside my family and with inside my family. My mother is very much like an almond mom. From that, I never, like whenever I saw like fat representation like in video games, like I tried to steer away from it. Like I played a lot of The Sims growing up, like that was my bread and butter game. I never made a fat sim. Like that was like I always tried to make like myself in the most idealized fashion because I truly felt so disconnected from my body. But then as I grew up and I got older and learned to embrace it, I was just like, I don't care. Like when I saw fat people in video games, I'm like, hell yeah, I see myself represented. I see myself in that, not to shy away from, but to embrace.
I think in my early years of gaming, I would just be I wouldn't realize what was happening, but I was like, wow, I really like some of these characters. The first one that comes to mind is Gar from Breath of Fire 3. He was just like this huge guy, and his biceps were enormous and just total powerhouse. And I was just enamored with this character. And, as I get later on in years, I realized, like, oh, yeah, I was into that.
Well, I don't have a character that I relate to. That's my whole deal with video games, but I'll get on to that later. But I did have many like neuron activation moments. For example, when I was younger and I played GTA San Andreas, I had no idea that you could make CJ fat. And that was such a moment for me because I had the mission. Oh, you gotta rob X bank or C bank and whatever. And I just kept making money so I could go back to the fried chicken place and just get so big. And I was too young back then to like understand what was happening. Harvest Moon. So in that game, it was way back in the day, the Super Nintendo game. And you can romance some of the characters. You can actually get married, have kids, and so on. And I ended up marrying the girl that was in the inn, that she always gave me pies. And that was, yeah, of course, I'm going to marry you. Like, duh. And the father, when you marry her and you go back to talk to the father's like, oh, it seems that those pies are really sticking to your waist. And I was so young and I was like, oh, yes. And then I went back to talk to the character and she always gave me pies. And I spent talking to her like pies. And sadly, my little sprite character never got bigger. But I think those were my first moments where I like, oh yeah, this might be something.
I think for my gaming experience growing up, it was just the whole me and my sister, just the whole sharing a PlayStation 2. And there wasn't really much that representation. And like, I think I got, like, thinking about back then, I just couldn't think of any character that was chubby because I didn't see any. But I think I remember, like, a few years later, I kind of got more into the whole Saints Row, which is just the whole one thing I do love. It's the whole, like, you can customize a character to be bigger. And that's one thing I always love. I don't know why people make characters that look like them. I just make characters that I find attractive, that I didn't even know I find attractive. So like it was always someone with a beard, someone who had a belly. And then I get asked by my family, it's like, why do you have to make your character like that? And I'm like, because I do. Because I want to.
Because I
Don't
want
judge
to.
me.
Right.
Don't
Yeah.
ask questions. I am a gay man, but you better believe if I play as a customizable woman, she has the fattest tits and ass you have ever seen on a bitch ever. Because trust and believe, as a non-trans feminine person, if you snap fingers tomorrow and said, "This is the body you must have," and I get to choose, I am giving myself the biggest pair of titties you have ever seen in your life. Fantasia Royale better watch out because I am coming for that breast. It just, because of course you would,
You don't want to be
right?
able to walk properly?
No, in the
Any
same
bigger
way
that
that
you won't be able to walk.
in the same way that my gaining desires are, I would love to be physically impeded by my growth. The kind of fat guy who has to develop a waddle, the kind of guy who's so big that it's like, oh shit. Like, same thing, but with the titties.
Well, like there was that, isn't there a story about, or maybe it was AI slop that was created about a guy who was fat enough that he had to carry his belly around in a wheelbarrow? I feel like there was a British guy that managed to make it that far.
That sounds
Um,
like that sounds like something like Victorian. That sounds like some kind of Victorian era, like
it might be one of those trashy tabloid things that was never real. But like for
Mm.
me, when I think about like, I grew up, from Nintendo and I like now I own a PS4. But, back in the day, like the only fat characters that I can remember were like Mario and maybe a few
Mhm.
other like sprites from Nintendo.
Well,
And
Tim, back when you started playing video games, it was hoop and stick. So,
yes, I know, yeah. No, we had to
oh,
skip it. That's what managed to make
Pong. You had Pong.
that stupid thing on a string that would just
no, baby, you
Skip
had
it.
Pac-Man.
Yeah, skip it, exactly.
You had Pac-Man and you were like, all he does is go around and eats things. I'm on board with this.
But yeah, y'all can talk shit, but man, toys of the 80s and 90s, people will never understand the kind of dangerous shit that we got up to. Like the skip it was already a hazard, but then they came out with that Pogo ball that you were just supposed to hold on to with your feet. It looked like Saturn, and it was just a basketball that you were supposed to hop up and down on. Moon
Lawn
shoes, for
darts.
God's sake.
Lawn
Moon shoes.
darts. Giant lawn darts. Like needles that they were giving to children to throw.
Into the
Oh
air.
my
See if it
God.
skewers you.
But back to
Forget
my
about these.
point. Back to my point. Like I like when it came to video games, I tended to like identify with the protagonist. Like I would get into the story if I liked the protagonist of it. So like a typical emo boy, like I identified with Squall from Final Fantasy VIII, and it's sort of from with Cloud. I don't know. Cloud was a little bit too like. I'll get to my feelings about FF7 in a while, but like yeah, I tended to go for like the stupid emo guy was like the main protagonist of a lot of games back then, and that's what I was into.
I mean, growing up, it was always Pokemon for me. And as much as I would have critique that, we see one or two character variations and like 3 or 4 race tropes now, I'd like to believe that we could revisit Gen 6 and I could have played as Tiano. He's about the only fat main character we've ever really seen, aside from a couple of like Hikatropes or whoever else, which of course we love, but I'd like to see some biggins. I feel like every Pokemon fan, you always glom more onto the Pokemon as a result of that. And every generation, who are the people here for? Miss Thing, in Gen 8, it was Wooloo. It was a round sheep that rolled everywhere. In Gen 9, it was Lechonk. It was a big fat piggy, okay? Who is the Eternal Flame? Snorlax. Like, don't sleep on it. Who are we always saying we stand for every single time? The boys who can't stand, but they sit down. So we love our round boys. I love them so much.
I really wish I knew more about Pokemon. I know that it's been long enough I could go and learn, but like I have no attachment to it.
I learned recently that like the model of Snorlax is based off of an actual employee at Game Freak.
Oh, it is.
And like I saw it in like a post and like they shared the photo and like yeah, that's Snorlax.
Yeah,
It's
and not
crazy.
just physically. All they say all he did was like, well, not all he did. I'm sorry, whoever you are, but he did like eat a lot and fell asleep at work. So Snorlax.
Frankly, icon behavior before we all knew it.
Truly.
Mr. We don't know your name, but if for God knows what reason you're listening to this podcast, we'd love to interview you and learn more about who you are as a person because you have literally inspired one of the biggest icons that any fat person could ever have. So please feel free to join us on Thicc Radio sometime and share your story. Oh my gosh. But listen, y'all, what is it about video games in particular that draws you in? Because even like in today's day, and I think all of us grew up with at least proximity to video games, like you still see a lot of that narrative where people are like, video games is a waste of time and money. Video games rots the brain and all this kind of narrative. And like we know that's dumb. But what is it about video games that you find scratches that itch? What is it about video games that really does it for you?
For me, it's the escapism. And like I grew up as like a strong Nintendo kid, so I played a lot of like Animal Crossing, Pokemon, and then I had our home computer was like an iMac, so I played The Sims 3, and like it was got hot enough to fry an egg. But I don't care. I played tens of thousands of hours into that. And then as I was growing up, I continued just to play like the Fable series, which was a huge imprint was a huge like impact on me, even though I didn't play it until like I was an adult. But it's just the escapism, and I was always like a big fan of like fantasy and like magic and all of that, and that's what really drew me in. It was like the RPG like simulator kind of games, as well as being a really big puzzle and nerd kid. So like puzzle games of that, like my favorite puzzle game ever is always going to be Chance of Senar. It scratches that itch. It's so good.
I think for me, it was the social and community aspect of it. Because for me, growing up, I never really had much social interaction with people. And when they introduced the whole multiplayer online situation, you could actually connect with people a lot more easier. You can actually just start socializing with games, playing games together. I think that's what draws me in. Even today, I enjoy playing video games like online, like Overwatch or Marvel Rivals or shit like that with a bunch of friends, and we were just like play, do competitive matches, stuff like that. I think that's what really draws me in, that and the community.
My relationship with video games is, I'm sorry to bore you guys, but it's complex because it's evolved as time goes on. Like, I agree with Shayne, it was about a de-escapism, but eventually it became more like I actually began to see it as a very valid storytelling mode of doing things. You know what I mean? Like a valid way to show art, to show different concepts, to show interesting characters. Like I've cried with some games. Some games have made me like ball out. Like, oh, like just I reaching for tissues. And that is not escapism because I'm feeling something real, you know? It also later on, as I got older, I realized I may be a little neurodivergent, and some cozy games really help me self-regulate, you know, making a little base, making it perfect, or like picking where the flower grows. It really does something to my brain, like chemically. And then I walk out like, oh, I'm okay now. But sometimes the opposite happens. I got into hyper focus. It's 10 hours. My farm looks perfect, and I haven't had a single drop of water. But it varies, but it's more than just a waste of time. I don't think it is anymore. It's a huge industry today, and it's very reductive to just say it's just for kids, you know?
For my life, something I've always wanted more than anything in the whole world is for magic to be real. I was a really creative kid and really imaginative, and like I was playing video games as a kid, but also I was outside. I was playing pretend. My toy was like rock, stick. I was having a blast. So like to be able to access that in something tangible, has always been so powerful. Second, to touch on Fuad's point about like as an adult crying while you're playing video games, having an emotional attachment. The characters in these video games are so earnest and so able to express themselves without like feeling any sort of like cringe. People are afraid to do things these days because it might be cringe. And that level of connection that video games can make to like such a wide audience is really powerful, and it's helping people like process their own feelings, which I think is amazing.
There's something to
You
be said
know,
that video games allow you to go at your own pace. Whereas, like a movie or a TV show, they've already inbuilt the same narratives that the video game does, but you are obliged to watch it and watch it in fullness. And of course, you can press pause and press play. But ever since the advent of like decision making in video games, there's always been an opportunity to vamp around the sides. There's always been side quests that allow you to go ahead and feel more prepared ahead of the main quest. There's always been opportunities to kind of make it your own, you know? So I very much agree with that, that sense of even if it is a story that each of us get delivered in the same fashion, the very narrative of playing through it means we get to approach it each in an individual way. It tugs on heartstrings in different ways. You know, Fuad, you mentioned some very emotional video games. I'm just going to say it, the Horizon series, like the ending of
Oh,
Horizon Zero
yes.
Dawn, when she's like, she reads the final message that she sacrificed herself to step out of the thing, and then like she goes and she finds her and she is past like sitting in the infected zone of what would have been like the family farm because she had nowhere else to go. And I just sat there with like tears rolling down my cheeks, like this is someone who gave their life for everything, and you've gone on this incredible journey and you're just like, oh my god. Like there is such beauty and potency that comes from video games.
you know, when I was a kid, they came out with the CD-ROM, right? And that kind of revolutionized video games because it opened up more in terms of tech, the ability to make things more animated, larger than life, and everything. And I played a lot of those early CD-ROM games, like horror games, adventure games. And what I love about video games is, like people have been mentioning, the storytelling aspect of it and the ability to suck you into the story, place you in either the part of the protagonist, sometimes one of the side characters, sometimes even the villain, and you become immersed in it. You know, like games like take the Myst series, for example, is something that is completely immersive. You're supposed to feel like you're on this deserted island trying to solve puzzles. Or if you take something like The Seventh Guest, same situation, you're solving puzzles and you're trying to escape, you know, a haunted mansion. And I love that these stories can affect you in like huge ways. Like when I played Silent Hill for the first time, or when I played Final Fantasy VIII for the first time, like these stories have stayed with me to this day. I think that's something that people have truly underestimated about video games. And you know, to kind of write them off and dismiss them. I mean, for God's sake, city planners use city skylines to do their work. I mean, that's how they practice. So you know, it's an industry that I'm really fascinated to continue to watch how far it's come in just the time that I've been on planet Earth, and I have no idea where it's going, but I love all of the creativity that exists out there for that industry.
So much power and potency that cannot be understated, which again, one of the reasons why we want to have this kind of conversation, because obviously we're going to zero in on the fat representation. And, you know, as we expressed before, so many of us here come at gaining from different angles. We have different goals, but we're all here with the same mindset of celebrating the thick, the big, the beautiful. And I think as many of us have kind of acknowledged, a sense of wanting to see what we find alluring represented, but also seeing ourselves represented, right? Like, I know playing Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, I went ahead and made CJ obese every fucking time. That was the first goddamn thing I did, because I didn't want to play the game. In the moment I knew that he could be the biggest, I didn't want to play the game without him being the biggest. And the fact of the matter is that game came out like what, 20 plus years ago, and like that's still better like plus size representation than we see in a lot of mainstream video game series because they don't want to show the biggins. So I think it's a great opportunity to discuss what we see in video games, right? As we know with a lot of media, maybe they present something that isn't specifically a kink directly or gaming directly, but we extrapolate from what we see and we get a little taste of the fantasy. Reflecting on some video games that you may have played in the past, do you feel like you've seen that kind of representation? Things like Mpreg, Blueberry, Macro Micro, Vor. What have you seen in video games?
Well, if I may go first, I've seen a lot. I haven't seen what I want to see in games yet, which is fat agency. But I've seen a lot of fat in games. Actually, games have a lot of fat. Fat is a mechanic. It's just not just characters. Fat is a mechanic. Fat is terrain. Fat is characters. Fat is dynamic. Fat is roles that characters fulfill. And fat is so interesting for games, but it's always contained. It's always stripped of any adult sense of sexuality or empowerment. For example, Kirby. I'm wearing a Kirby shirt. Kirby is the example of gluttony. He consumes, but it's always shown in a childlike, cute manner. Is harmless, you know? And that's what I haven't seen yet in games. Fat is a mechanic many times. Getting fat in a game changes your stats. For example, this is not a fat per se reference, but The Binding of Isaac is a bullet hell game. And there are debuffs in that game that will increase your size, therefore making the game more difficult. If your size increases, you can also go slower, which in bullet hell is literal hell. So again, you see a lot of that affecting not just the character or the visual or the individual experience you have with the game, but the mechanics itself. So it's really nice, you know. Honda is so big. He has a bigger hitbox than the rest of the other characters. He's easier to hit, but he has bigger stun. He has different movesets. So it's just so interesting how I see Fat playing into even things that are not immediately visible in video games.
And to piggyback off that, I previously mentioned the Fable series. In Fable 1 and 2, the way that you heal is by eating food. And there are certain foods that make you fat and certain foods that don't. And the fatness, it's literally like you can see it grow, like your fatness, like not physically, but also in like a metric. And then also as your fatness grows, you become more evil and you become less attractive. So it literally like imprints like a morality on fatness. Because there is a good, and because you could be, and like similar to like the way that what is it?
Well, I
Infamous
would
works.
suppose in a sort of fairy tale setting that would make sense because
Right.
again, they're
Well,
trying to like lean into the trope.
right, exactly. But it is a fantasy game after all. But it's still like oh my God, where was I? I'm sorry.
That's okay. You were about to confess to the fact that you're a chicken chaser.
Yes,
Chicken chaser.
chicken chaser.
You
That's
chase
and
chickens.
and controversial hot take, Fable 3 is my favorite of the Fables. One of the reasons is because there is no fat mechanic. You heal with heal potions, you do not heal with food. Among other like things. But that is one of the reasons why is because they basically got rid of the fat mechanic.
I'm just gonna like piggyback off those good comments because one thing I have noticed with video games, especially when like thinking about this, I think like with like gaining and food related stuff, I think like sometimes they're more use like a power up. So like in Super Mario, they have introduced a mega mushroom, and that just makes you extremely big, like Godzilla size, and just start bulldozing everything around you. So it just turns you into a really tanky, like unstoppable player for a moment, while just breaking everything and just destroying characters in front of you.
Not to mention Mario Wonder, where you can turn into an elephant now, which is fantastic.
Yeah.
And then wasn't there something in the marketing where wasn't it Bowser and someone gets turned into like a fat version of themselves, and then
Peach.
Bowser suddenly
Peach.
it happened to Peach, and then suddenly Bowser's way more interested in the fat version of Peach, and I think everyone was like, are we canonizing that Bowser is either A, a feeder, or B, a very keen chaser? Like, Mario is constantly thwarting his attempts at fattening up his bride. Oh my god.
And then if you look at Yoshi, he literally swallows people and then produces an egg. That's Vor and Mpreg in one.
Oh, wow.
In a single character.
Because I was trying to think of other examples of maybe macro in video games, and the only thing I kept coming across was Shadow of the Colossus, but those don't look human. So I was like,
Well, technically, back to Mario, if you have two of the power-ups, one makes you invulnerable, and then the other one, like, makes you, like, double the size. So, like, technically.
I was going to say, if anybody knows of games that have Mpreg elements, please send that information my way. I'm interested.
Well, there's always The Sims. Like, The Sims can do anything now. Like, there's so many mods that you can download for The Sims that you can, like, for a little while, I went nuts with all the mods. Like, I downloaded all of the, like, the Violent and the Gang and the Stripper and the, all this other shit. And I had, like, a fat boy brothel, because I downloaded the Wicked Whims and like a bunch of other meshes and shit like that. And it actually kind of just crashed my game. And I'm like, you know what? Less is more. So I went back to its original programming. I'm like, I know it renders the game nigh on unplayable, but like, I would rather just build houses at this point.
Yeah, I bet your PC sounded like a jet engine trying to load everything. I had friends like that growing up because I was born in 98, so like Sims 3 is really where I hit my stride. And I had friends that on their MacBooks like sounded like jet engines about to take flight with all of their Alpha CC content.
Ridiculous. The things we do to get the content we want in our video games.
Well, I know, and it would be so much easier if they would just put it in the damn game. Look, we're going to do it one way or the other. It's kind of like with that AI slot. There's always these things about, content violation. Like, people are going to make fetish content whether you like it or not.
I think the fall of media literacy is like the forgetting of Rule 34. Like, kids these days don't know about Rule 34.
They've also...
Yeah.
To build off of what Tim was saying, I am seeing a little bit of that. A really good instance is Marvel Rivals. They're doing these like official
Fat Girl mods. Yeah.
And like there are certain emotes for the characters that can be played to male characters, and it's like very, very ass jiggly, very like bulgy, like great things are happening there.
Yeah, the audacity of them to put out like a thick squirrel girl, and I'm sat here like, why am I attracted to this? This is insane. Leave me, like, don't at me. Except do, but don't. It's like at the moment, there's one of those furry artists that's doing like big bar fur wolf with like the titties and the belly, and it's all the memes where it's like, I'm not into this, and then it shows this one character with this huge gut and tits, and I'm just like, stop this immediately. You're going to make me like it. And then I already like it. And it's like, fuck's sake. So it's like, like candy, like luring this fat boy down the rabbit hole of like, oh, now I'm here. Now I'm into this. Ugh, goddamn. Yes.
Those pipelines, they'll get you.
They will.
I was literally about to say at one point, you really just tickled the back of my head when you said like the modding and the Marvel, because that's like what I'm doing now is everything I've I've been playing Marvel Rival with friends, and I've been trying to like make all of the character thick as hell, chubby, and I'm just like enjoying it more. And I'm not gonna lie, recently they ended up making an art, and this is actually touching on the Emperor, where Deadpool is just pregnated and he got a massive belly. And it's just an interesting choice that they actually wanted to create an art like that.
So, like, what kind of games do the fat characters typically feature in, like, and what roles do they usually play? Because from, like, again, what I can remember is, like, the only, like, fat protagonist video game character that I knew of was either Mario or Homer Simpson from the Simpsons arcade game.
So to me, the fat characters are always comic relief or villains. In so many video games, there's like some sort of like church or religion, and they're the bad guys, and it's always like a head leader that's like this total fat ass, and that's just what they always do with it. A really good example of that is the fat official from the Demon Souls game. He's so annoying and very jiggly, and that's just like what they do with so many games. Comic relief, I still enjoy. Like, I think I'm glad that I'm seeing Fat being in more protagonist roles and doing all kinds of more dynamic things. But I still like comic relief. It's still good. One of my favorite characters for that, from Onimusha 2, there was a drunk monk called Eke, and he was very jolly and just a delightful character.
I would say not like exactly like a protagonist, but like one of the main characters in like I'm going back to Fable 2 again. Like you have to like find like the masters of like each of is like shooting, like strength, and then magic. And the first one you find strength is a burly, large-chested monk woman. And her whole thing is like, I've been stuck with monks because they don't want me to fight, but I want to fight. And she becomes like basically like inconsequential, like very inconsequential to your entire journeying party. So I think that's one instance of like good. But another instance I think of good would be like in Resident Evil the Village, there's the Duke, who is the merchant, who is the only reason why you can like upgrade your guns, make food, things like that. And he is a like massive, massive man. Like in a
When I
way
saw
that
the artwork for it, I was like, is that the Baron from Dune? Like, is that what
yeah,
that is?
a little bit. Granted, in the DLC, he's like he becomes the Masked Duke and he's like evil and it's this whole different thing. It's completely totally different. But like it's an example of where like usually yeah, you see fat people as what Jacob said, comedic relief, or they're like like the big bad insurmountable evil. But there are like and these are like at least nowadays we're now seeing more like of like the Duke and like fat people in roles that are really really important to video games and that aren't necessarily evil.
So to that point, I 100% agree. However, I have a really interesting example. Fat characters for me are either humor, horror, or villains. They tend to overlap. But recently, to add an interesting example is Death Stranding. So, my boy Guillermo, he is adorable in that game. He is a fat character, smart, integral to the plot. You can't get any progress without him. They're not shy about showing his size and is not portrayed as the butt of the joke or something to morally judge as, He is so interesting. He has layers. He's a really complex character. He's not to go too deep into the lore, but it actually you root for him, you feel for him, and that is something that I haven't seen. Because earlier I said that I want to see more fat agency because they do portray us, but they portray us in a very safe way, and there's not a lot of fat joy in games or fat agency. And with Guillermo, we see that we 100% see that, and it's so refreshing to see. But again, this is a fairly modern new example of video games. But I wanted to add that because that character does defy the stereotypical way that we're represented. So it's really good.
And to that point, I mentioned Horizon before. Introduced in the first video game, Erend, the Oseram. You meet him relatively early on in Aloy's journey, and he's actually real cute because he starts trying to play with Aloy. He's like, "Hey, well, if you need a guide, you seem new to all this. Let me show you around." And First of all, we love a guy with game because that's confidence and that's cute as fuck. He was thick, and in no way was he inconsequential because he's captain of the Vanguard, physical prowess, he's got a hammer, very, very capable. But also to that point, because this is such a narrative driven game, Eren also falls into line like he's supposed to. Aloy, being the main character, is the most capable. She's the heroine she's meant to be. But Eren doesn't become a weird dude or dickish when he sees this. He literally sees her kick ass and be incredible, and in the game you see him stop and go, whoa. And then immediately you go, okay, you're clearly the boss around here. What do you need? Falls in behind her, and then goes in with the, what do you need from me? What can I do? It's clear you're capable. I need to introduce you to the Sun King. Please allow me to set that up. Like, this is not a person with ulterior motives. This is a dude out here trying to do like what he thinks is the right thing in the moment. And then the moment he gets some clarity on what the vision is, that motherfucker knows his role to play and does it excellently. Like, he's a solid guy. And it's fantastic that you get to see him grow in his own capabilities and play his own agency in that game. Like, mwah, chef's kiss for me.
I think when it comes to like the roles or like the characters in the video games and that they are chubby, yes, they have been seen as comic relief, a villain, but they do it in a different way. Like it could be either a bully, and they would just look messy, ugly, and it's kind of a bit like the whole unrealistic representation. I understand with some games, if it's like a monster or like a different world situation, that's fine. But when it's like comes to the whole playable characters, you're most likely going to be playing a character who is tanky as hell, plays on the defense line, more known to be a heavy hitter by throwing their weights, and then just having the whole slow movement. While other characters who are slimmer, they move fast, they're more using a stealth skills, they're just like more agile. And like I think it'd be nice to kind of not be like, yeah, just because you're fat doesn't mean you have to be slow. Just because of like their fat,
Well,
it doesn't have to hit that criteria.
We were going to
let's talk
mention.
then. What were you going to say, Tim?
I was going to say, like, that's because we were going to ask, are there any characters who defy stereotypes, or are there good representations? And then I was going to go in with Bob Richards from Tekken.
Exactly what I was about to say. Bob Richards from motherfucking Tekken. And if y'all don't know his story, check it. Because the dude, in his own story, starts out skinny, and he was a very capable fighter. He was world-class champion. And then guess what? Some dude who's bigger than him comes on the scene, kicks his ass. And his response to that situation is not to be fatphobic and say, oh, that fat piece of shit beat me. I'm so upset about this. What do I do? His response is brilliant. He goes, the difference between him and me is he's big. So you know what I've got to do if I want to beat him? I've got to get even bigger. And the dude doesn't just get muscly, because he was already muscly. He gets fucking fat. And not just fat, he gets blubbery fat. Every fucking panoramic shot of this dude, every key movement he does when he kicks someone's ass, you're seeing exposed belly and popping buttons and fat, juicy ass and rolling shoulders and double chins. And that man maintains fatness and obesity with physical capability. He goes on to kick that guy's ass. And in his story, they're interviewing him and saying, wow, you did it. You've finally proven you can beat everybody. So clearly you're going to go back to the way you were before, right? And he says, no. I lost because I wasn't big enough. I got big enough and beat him. So clearly I now need to remain obese for the rest of my life to maintain being the best. And that is his whole motherfucking story. Like, come on. Is that not just like, mwah, chef's kiss?
It kind of sounds like the idea of like sumo wrestling. Like, is that like, I know that's not video games, but that's like the idea of sumo wrestling is that you're very strong, but you're very, very large to keep your center of gravity low, so that way you can't be toppled over.
Yeah, essentially the same idea. And like, other examples, like we've already mentioned E Honda from the Street Fighter series. He's a sumo wrestler, but very athletic. And quite often I've noticed that in like representations of him, by various artists, they make him big, but they also like his stomach seems to still have like the shadow of abs. Like he's definitely not drawn as a fat man, whereas
Well,
Bob is always drawn as a fat man. And the other big boy on the Street Fighter roster is Zangief. And like,
oh my God,
well, I
Zangief.
mean, like, he's like anyone that's ever watched WWE wrestling when they were a kid, like this ticks a certain box for us.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah.
But like, I would
Sugar
definitely
too.
like to see Zangief with, maybe some slightly more inflated love handles. Like I need something above that waistband to grab onto.
Um,
Oh
if you want to
gosh.
see a Zangief lookalike with some juicy love handles, I'm going to recommend that you follow Roman the Wizard. Because Jacob, I think the very first time Caesar was telling me like, "Oh, I hang out with these two cute guys," and then I saw a picture of Roman, I just thought Zangief. Like, if he doesn't do a cosplay, he absolutely must, because that would just be chef's kiss. If you could arrange that for me, please, that'd be fantastic.
It's on my to-do list. I'll make it happen.
Oh my goodness. And you know what, look, just on that point about framing, I made this statement before. Fuad has joined this call with a little Latin spit curl here, looking so beef and muscularly, literally looking like a Latin Superman. And like, I just want to point this out, y'all. Like, all of the biggest and most powerful, potent superhero characters are not string beans. They're just not. If you want the vision of someone who is an iconic key superhero, you are looking at someone who has meat on their bones. And maybe they're not so specifically fat, but they are not the skinty little types that people try to promote. It is my
Yeah,
one
they still
grief.
have, they're still jacked up with a lot of musculature. Like, look at He-Man, he's
Yeah,
fucking stacked.
it's my one critique, and I'd love anyone who'll do a cosplay, right? But there's something about like a skinny mini doing like a very twiggish version of someone who's meant to be very beefy and brawny that in my brain I'm like, I think we have to acknowledge here that you're giving us the hero before the weightlifting routine. You're giving us that. That's not to take away from your right to express what you want to express, but if we're talking visuals, baby, we need a little something to really fill out that costume because that's what we need to see from it.
We're not all watching Captain America to see him before he was experimented on. We're there after.
I don't think I've ever gotten over Dolph Lundgren in Masters of the Universe. I think that's been burned into my brain for the rest of my life.
Or who was the one? Something Marino, the original Hulk?
Oh, Lou Ferrigno.
Lou
Lou
Ferrigno,
Ferrigno.
yeah.
Lufer.
They absolutely stunning.
I wanted to give my three kind of like stereotype breakers
Go for it.
because I think they're like the protagonist and like bigger. Okay, so my third place, his name is Ivor from the Banner Saga series. He's a pivotal character for the whole series, all three games, and he's definitely a bigger character. Like your standard human unit will take up one spot. He takes up four because he's just like freaking enormous. And his race is like all about like eating a lot, having lots of drinks, like very, but also very like stoic, like super masculine. It's fantastic. Second place, the druid class from Diablo 4. If you haven't played, it's like all the other classes are kind of like the standard thing, like very lean, muscular heroes. The druid is not that. This looks like a power lifter. He is thick, and you can win, beat the game, save the world as a thick badass. Great. My number one actually was someone Shayne was talking on, and I still think is impressive, is the hero from Fable 1. I know that if you're willing to reject the morality aspect, like so many of us already do, like we're gays, so we kind of like don't roll with that all the time naturally. You can start small, eat a ton of food, and complete the game as like the hero of the realm. I think that's noteworthy.
No, that's fantastic. And again, it comes back to that point that I think sometimes we look to the modernization of things as, oh, the modern games are going to give us what we need to receive. And so often they don't. And it's the irony that when you look for resources, there was stuff all the way back when, like not a fat representation, but trans. In the Mario series, you have the character Birdie, who it says in like the original character booklet, they were called something other, but they dress now with a pink bow and prefer to be called Birdie. Like, definition distinction of trans character, and they did that shit in the 80s. These things are so much more possible than sometimes we think to give credit for, and it's wonderful. Love it, love it, love it. Also, Barrett Wallace from Final Fantasy VII, again, not fat, but the dude is jacked. And also black representation, like once again, the intersection of all of these things, like to see characters of all different makes and models being shown is wonderful.
Well, and to bring up Final Fantasy, I believe Sid, who is a reoccurring character throughout several of the games, is usually depicted as a burly type of man. Like he's got this big thing around his waist. I don't It's part of his outfit or something. I don't know if it's a belt or a sweater or what it's supposed to be, but like he's got a definite thick through the middle.
Are you thinking about
Same.
Ward, maybe?
Well, now there's Sid and then there's Ward. Like Ward
Okay.
is a character specifically from Final Fantasy VIII, and he's a big guy
Okay.
too. But like Sid is a character that sometimes reoccurs throughout the Final Fantasy franchise, and he's usually depicted as like a gruff aviator type of man with like spiky blonde hair.
I mean, when I think of like positive representation, I unfortunately I play a lot of League of Legends, and so for the first character that comes to mind is Gragas, who is like this like short, stout, like he's got like strong arms and like pecs, but massive stomach, and his whole thing is like fermentation and like drinking wine. It's like wine or beer, some kind of alcoholic drink, and that's his whole thing. But he is a really greatly loved character. Specifically, this one skin he has, which is Pool Party. So like the pool, which is like a whole skin line of just like a bunch of like a bunch of them scantily clad, and like at like a pool party, and it's him. He's in like a giant floater. Like it makes him even larger, and it's one of and another one I think of is Roadhog from Overwatch, which I feel like is a bit of a gimme, who is just this huge guy who is one of the only characters who can self heal, which at the even at the game's inception, like in the original Overwatch, he was one of the only ones that could self heal, other than Bastion, but Bastion's self heal wasn't as good.
Mm.
Oh, and I forgot to mention from Dream Daddy, Brian.
Brian.
Oh, Brian.
Oh,
And
right.
Brian, yes. And maybe that's
Oh.
and you know what? That's some ginger representation. You better believe I clung to Brian, and I'm like, now that's the man that I could be. Just like fat ginger dude, like in that Hawaiian shirt that doesn't quite button up anymore because he's too busy running the barbecue. Like, yes, Brian, show me. Ugh.
Which I think leads into another stereotype about fat people, i.e., Santa, is that they're jolly. They're extremely happy-go-lucky jolly, which, like, this goes into philosophy on stereotypes about whether, like, good stereotypes exist. But I feel like if you are of the people that believe that good stereotypes exist, I don't think there's, like, who would say, like, oh, they're jolly, like, that's bad?
Because have you noticed that the opposite of that, like when they don't cast a fat person as a jelly person, it's usually like a goth chick that's overweight, that's considered miserable and like hates everybody. Like
Right.
But
that
then,
seems to be the adverse, or the opposite end of the spectrum.
but it's
on
always
that
as
one,
like a
which is really
cultural
weird.
foil, right? Like she's only a goth and hates everyone because she thinks everyone hates her, and it's like, well, it's just because she's fat and she hasn't figured out like when she loses the weight she'll be nice. Like, was that not the whole plot of that TV show where that one girl is fat and overweight, and then she breaks a jaw and goes into a coma, and then because she's not
Oh
eating, she turns
yeah,
out all
yeah.
skinny, and then decides to go back to school and make everyone's lives
That
and
show
living
is
up.
fucked up, by the
That
way. If you've ever
Debbie
seen that show is fucked up.
Debbie Ryan Slop. That's all like it's like it was like one of her first post projects from being a Disney star, and
Disney.
yeah.
But we were talking
Uh,
about some other things before. Ellie from Borderlands is another good representation. She really stands on
Okay.
her own ground. I think Wedge was another one of the big uns from Final Fantasy VII, right?
Yes, he
He's a little
was.
cutie.
Oh, we
Um,
haven't talked Lydia from Skyrim. That's a big woman.
oh yeah.
I also have a couple that also I have one that in my head is like divides on two like stereotypes: the Greek mythology stereotype and also the that stereotype is from Hades too. Hephaestus.
Hephaestus,
Hephaestus.
yes.
Hephaestus,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes, he is a plus size. He's with a prosthetic leg in a wheelchair. I think it's the feet. I think it defines on two stereotypes. On the Greek side of the mythology, Hephaestus is more known to be like looking very rugged, very rough, very bulky, not in like a chubby way, but in a muscular way. But in the game, they made him chubby. They made him look like clean, like he'd be a chill guy on a cushion, just chilling all day long. Because with the outfit they like put him in, with the character design, I just really love it. And his attitude hasn't really been more angry or too jolly. It's been realistic on a realistic scale. Like it's not too vulnerable. It's not like under vulnerable. It's an average amount as anyone would react.
Yeah.
If there's a Final Fantasy baddie that I could put on everyone's radar that doesn't get a lot of talk about, from Final Fantasy 16, this character's name is Goetz, Goetz. He's an item merchant, but he has a lot of side quests. He's very big. He is very hot. He's a blonde. Google him.
Oh.
Check him out because he's really
Okay.
sexy. Now, unfortunately, in the American version, he doesn't have a normal voice. They give him this like goblin voice that's way up here, and it's so annoying. But in the Japanese version, he sounds like a normal guy. Like and it's so much better. But anyways, please go check him out. He's beautiful.
God damn.
You know what game I can't believe we haven't even mentioned? Well, it's a woman, but still relevant. Fat Princess, yo. Fat Princess is a game in which two teams play, and they have to make their princess fatter.
Fatter,
They
so that
gotta
the other
feed
team
her.
can't like capture the flag, except you have to fatten your princess up.
Yes.
I have never heard of this game.
I've never heard
of
of
this.
It's a very niche thing. I remember it was like one of those free games when I had my PS3. I know I'm older, but it was so much fun. You had to make her fatter, and then that's how you claim the flag or whatever. And her soldiers had to bring her food and cakes. It's really cute. It's really cute.
There is a game actually that I just remembered existed that I think we should talk about here because it specifically is about gaming. It is called Cards of Gluttony, and it was developed by Oakbells, who, listen, if you're listening to this, we'd love to interview you and talk about Cards of Gluttony because, and I'm going to just say this here, y'all, I didn't get past the first battle because obviously the point is there are certain like buffs and weaknesses that you get or don't get by either getting fatter or losing weight. But my whole thing is that I just made myself lose by getting 2 morbidly obese every battle. And I just did that over and over and over again. So I not the person to talk to when it comes to having played that game properly.
I think I made it to day 4 before I just started intentionally losing every battle.
Fuad, you wanna chime in here, baby?
Oh yes. So I downloaded the game. It's in my computer.
Yes.
And oh my god. So at first I couldn't really get ahead because I just kept jerking off the scenes over and over and over.
You just couldn't figure out the gameplay, Fuad. That's okay. Neither could I. Oh no.
But the thing is,
oh no.
Hold on. It's just that you can get like if you become a supporter. It's just I didn't know if I could bring this game up because of like I'm gonna do, advertisement. But I have he gives you the code. So or if you finish, you can select the scenes and then you can just replay them over and over again. Or you can see all the models without the clothes, and it's just I've done so many loads to that game. I cannot tell you.
It's a great game. He definitely made it like difficult to like concentrate though. I've never video games never made me want to
But
jack
what a
off.
fabulous gaming concept. People complain video games aren't hard enough anymore. If you don't play games on hard mode, are you gaming properly anymore? And it turns out you don't need to worry about the game being made more difficult. It's actually the game difficulty is like, can you play it without dissolving into pure horny jorgen off? And I am so mad at myself that I'm like, I could beat that. I will not succumb. I've succumbed.
How sticky are y'all's keyboards? How sticky?
Don't ask questions you don't want the answer to, baby.
You don't want to know.
We're gay men.
Half the keyboards are just
come on.
half the keys are just stuck down. Like
We
you
are
can't
gay
even
men. Next to everyone's desk or on everyone's or near the computer is a bottle of lube, maybe some poppers, possibly some lotion if you're desperate.
Oh, I feel called out.
I don't know what you're talking about. I know nothing of the sort. How very, very dare you. I would never, as a white Christian woman, a la Terry Jo, I would never, with all these damn homosexuals here on this Zoom call.
The homosexuals that you personally asked to come.
Yeah, precisely. Well, no, I didn't ask you to come. I asked you to join me on this Zoom call.
Yes. Oh, yes. My apologies.
No, he demanded that we come.
Right.
Exactly. Jacob's like, you weren't there for my intro call. He pinned me to the wall, slapped me in the tits, and said, you better come, bag. And he was like, oh, okay.
Reached through the Zoom call.
Yeah, like Samara in the ring, and instead of you'll die in 7 days, I was like, you're gonna come in 7 days.
Daddy, chill.
You're gonna come. You're gonna come for 7 days continually.
And in the words of Dropout TV, you may now come. That is a niche reference for anyone who enjoys Drop. Also, since we're on the point of fat, that was both Jacob Wysocki and Lou Wilson, both of them so fat and so gorgeous. Holy fucking shit. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I'm devolving. What were we talking about? Video games.
Video games.
I'm here.
Or as you said it at the top of the episode, video games.
Video games. I wasn't gonna let that slide. I clocked that and I was like, I'm gonna bring it up at some point.
Did you like video games? Do you like video games?
Vegemite, video games. You see,
I'd rather have video games than Vegemite.
Same.
the audacity of all of you. How very dare you. Some other characters that might be worth mentioning here. I think we talked about Rufus from Street Fighter 4. And we may have mentioned the coach from Left 4 Dead. People may have brought them up.
Oh my God, Coach! Oh my God. One of my
Yeah.
favorite games of all time. Yeah, fat representation, black representation. Amazing.
I've also got written down here Gloria from As We Know It, May from Overwatch, and Eddie from Silent Hill 2.
Not a whole lot of people talk about Eddie, which I find, well, and I can understand why, because character-wise in the game, he's fucked up. Like, I think he's a serial killer or something.
Yeah.
And, but I have seen plenty of fan art where they fattened Eddie up a bit on.
And now that I'm thinking about it, tying into Left 4 Dead, a lot of zombie games will have like fat bloated zombies that usually explode or throw up on you.
Yeah, like wasn't there one of the games where there's some lady in a scooter at the buffet that is trying to?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I gotta have all this food. I gotta eat everything.
Oh my God. Dead Rising 4.
Okay, and she is a zombie in the game, yes, or is she
No,
just a fat lady that's gone
it's
crazy?
it's the apocalypse. I think she's just like real and she's stuck in the buffet and is just like eating everything. Because I think I don't know. It's like zombie apocalypse, but I don't think she's a zombie. She's just crazy.
Okay.
She's a psycho. That game actually has psychos and zombies.
Psychos, right?
And every psycho is like a stage, and a lot of the psychos, well, some of them are really fat. Like there's a fat clown, there's a fat security lady, and the first Dead Rising. Again, a lot of villains.
Let me ask you, because we're talking about characters in particular decoded into games, and I do think that's important because that's the real representation we're being given. Because yes, if there's character display screens, we can make them for ourselves. So this is explicit representation. What about games where, as I was just saying, you can character create? Some games I think do it really well, some don't. But what are some classic games that, in your opinion, even if the graphics were a little crunchy-dunch, what are some games where like the character creation screen actually kind of gave you an approximation of like, oh no, this is a big dude or a big bitch that I could actually play as in a game?
I would go back to Skyrim, like Elder Scrolls in general. I feel like they did a really good job of that. A decent amount of like sandbox survival games allow you to do that as well. I'd say the one exception to that is Minecraft, but like you're a block. It's all square. But I think I'd probably say mostly Skyrim. Sims, at least nowadays with Sims 4. Like, because before it was like you kind of like had to select, but now with the Sims 4 you can really like body mod and slide like literally every single like anatomical part you could think of.
I think I have an example which I had mentioned this earlier, Saints Row, specifically Saints Row 3, because they actually put it in a triangle spectrum where it's like muscular, fat, slim. So you can actually just slide it around to whatever you find fit. Like you could actually be like a slimish fat guy, a bulky, muscular, chubby guy. And it kind of bit like, it didn't just limit to like either like A, B, or C. It kind of gave you a whole idea of what size you want. And I really love that. That's one thing I really love about that game because of the triangle like customization on the whole body.
I think some of those early MMORPGs allowed for more body modifications than like the
like World of Warcraft. You had some real shapes that you could make in the game design. And obviously, Sims. Like, and again, maybe things you couldn't always dial up to the biggest, but certainly in terms of like shapeliness, you could get a lot of that, especially even with classic Sims.
I would also
the Dark Souls and Elden Ring also you can make your character quite big.
I wanted to add one, Dragon's Dogma. Like that is a game where you can make really, really chubby characters. Well, not blubbery like characters, but you can actually make them quite chubby. You can make yourself chubby. You can save the world. You can destroy the dragon. And you also have these followers that I forget the name. I think they're pawns. And they have no soul and they're bound to serve you. And of course I make them so big. And the fatness does affect the gameplay a little bit. They're slower, which I hate. Like just make them run. Just give me a fat character. It is a fantasy world. Like if I can suspend the disbelief for a floating red dragon, I can suspend the disbelief for a fat character, running really, really fast. But yeah, that's an example. And you can adjust like chest size, belly size, package. I think there's a no, that's Saints Row. Butt size, I believe that's an option. You can make them look really, really nice.
And I'd probably say another game, probably like the game of all games at this point, Baldur's Gate 3. You can do any
Mm.
which thing you want to your person, even with like even without mods. You could do whatever you can have pubic hair. You can have no pubic hair. Like they let you do really whatever you want. I will say the
Mm.
one like I would say of games that don't really offer that. I've noticed I play a lot of RPGs. I play a lot of JRPGs and KRPGs where they don't really let you get like fat, but like I usually in those games I'm playing women that have massive tests, tiny waists, and huge thighs and ass. And the one thing about KRPGs and JRPGs is that they do not skimp on jiggle physics.
Oh,
American
nice.
RPGs is a little bit of a different story. JRPGs and KRPGs, they're doing things that are not physically possible.
I always think of that one anime scene, and obviously I'm going to bring this up in Fat and Anime, but it's that one zombie one where the guy like fires the round of bullets, and that one chick's boobs are flying so fast that the bullet like passes unimpeded as the boobs are like swaying back and forth. And like I know that's not realistic. I don't need it to be. I need the jiggle. I need the ridiculousness, and that was fantastic. You know, I'd have
Because
felt the
when we
same
looked it
way.
up, when we tried to figure out exactly how fast
Oh, High
her
School of the
her
Dead.
tits
Thank
would have
you,
had
Fuad.
to have been
Uh,
jiggling in order for the bullet to pass between them. It was like it would have like broken reality with how fast it would have had to be
Yeah,
going.
it would have caused a miniature black hole. To
there,
to
there's actually
begin.
there is a video game that is based off of an anime, Kaijo Hip Whip Girls, where the entire anime is about like a league of like it's a sports league of women that like whip their chest and hips and ass at each other and try and like they're in the middle of a pool, but they made a video game off of it where it's literally it's like kind of like a fighting game where you are back to back and you are trying to like basically bounce somebody off of a floaty into a pool, and the jiggle physics are insane. And even in the show and
Mm,
in the game as well, there's a woman that comes in that has massive tits and a massive ass. And
this
they're
is
just
so
like, oh,
beautiful.
I think they called her like the Juggernaut or something, like something crazy.
The juggernaut. That's fantastic. I love that Rosie made an appearance, by the way, Jacob, like as we were talking about like titty jiggle physics. So I think Rosie likes titty jiggle physics.
We
I
need
think that's
female
what we.
representation. We're talking about jiggle
Yes!
physics.
Oh,
So
you want to
Rosie
talk
came over
about
to let us know.
an eater? This one right here, and like forever, she'll eat anything.
Oh, I love it. Y'all, this has been such a good conversation, but before we begin to wrap things out, I want to put it to everyone here. Let's create a fat character. I think we've heard some good ones. I think we know some challenging ones, but I want to put it to you. If you had to create a fat character, what do you need out of them, and what do you want to remain out of the character creation screen?
I think something would be good would be more diversity of like bellies. Like not every belly looks the same. And I feel like a lot of them it's just kind of like a slider and like it's just like random things or it's just like the torso, but like there's I feel like they can incorporate more like shapeliness. Like I guess like getting like more detail, like just like including more detail.
Hairy bellies, aprons,
Belly hangs.
Skinny
belly
fat,
Like,
where it's just like that little bit of chub that sort of begins to form around the love handles and makes that delicious
Oh,
smear.
I love that.
And you know what?
Yeah,
Cellulite.
If they want to keep it non-sexual, just turn the entire cock area into a massive fat pad. Keep it nice and juicy and have it jiggle alongside the belly. I'm going to lose this video game so hard. I'll be
I
texting
love.
like, I can't get past level 1. You guys, like, come here now. It's too hard.
I want like girl armor where it's
Yeah.
like half of a pauldron and like one little strap. That's
Yes.
it.
Oh my God, like a leather strap
Yes.
that like cups around the muscle, meaty titty, so that like, yes, the titty pops, but like it kind of hangs just a little bit over the leather strap. You know what I'm saying? A little bit like that. You know what? Take inspiration from the faggots. You better be inspired by leatherworks and by harnesses and yarnesses. Like, look at the neoprene works, baby, and turn that into an outline. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think armor that like you know how like those like old female armors that have like giant tits as like jokes. Like it'd be like that has like tits and a belly and like what and like love handles and like all of that. Like knight armor that has back rolls. Hello, what are we doing?
So
Oh yeah.
that is a thing in a game. So in
oh,
the Dark Souls series, there's the Onion Knight, and he has like his armor is just like rolls, and he's like a huge guy, and he's great. He's like your BFF in the game, and you're always happy to see him because he's so polite and he like helps you fight bosses and stuff. It's awesome. So there's a little bit of that.
Oh my god. And in fact, the Onion Knight, going off this armor, it's split belly. That's really cool. Again, that thing of the only bellies really being shown are these huge orbs, and we love it. But like split bellies are very much a thing, you know, more flabulous shapes. And this Onion Knight is representing that. That's really cool. Okay, what else do we need? I would selfishly like a character who, if they have powers or abilities, that it is not rooted necessarily in cooking, in eating as a result of that. I would love to see a character who, the fat dude who, and if you want to keep it as like thematic to their size, maybe they have lightning powers. And because of their size, they conduct electricity and it disperses through the fat because it grounds them or something, right? Like maybe you can have that. Or maybe they've got fire powers because, you know, the big engine of magic that swells within them if you want to keep it like that. But I'd love to see power sets that are not intrinsically tied to weight, size, and shape.
My parents called me Furnace Boy growing up because I just because I have a lot of body heat and I just run warm in general. So like that would always like I always thought like a superpower or superhero that's called Furnace Boy that just conducts heat and like it's been like a whole thing of mine where like at one point he like trains his power so far that it becomes like a star core and it becomes a whole thing.
I just don't want to be slow, you know? Like that trope is just so tired. I want a fast, fat character, you know? Somebody that can move fast. I also need more jiggle physics, but realistic jiggle physics on the belly, on the butt, because fat in different places move different, you know? So yeah, I need a fat character. I'm so bored of just playing like that boulder that barely moves through the screen.
For me, I need a dateable fat character, not in a dating game. So far, the closest thing I've seen is Tarbin from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. He's a baker, and he's a bigger
Mm,
guy. But like, they can do more. They could do it more concisely, and our game would have that.
I think Linus from Stardew Valley is a dateable character. The fat homeless guy, I believe. Oh, it's not that, but like I think he is like bigger, like a larger character, and I believe he is also romanceable.
I think what I would love in a video game is plus size, either trans, non-binary characters. I think like
mm.
I think like the closest thing to that is just a customizable character, but it'd be so nice if it's like an NPC or like another playable character that is there by default. I think that's what
Mm.
would be a really nice like suit for a game.
I don't know if I can come up with anything like specific for the character. Like I want all this stuff. I just want it in a horror game. Like I miss like a good like horror protagonist that I can really identify with. You know, like I want like a Harry Mason type of fat character that I could see like wandering his way through a ghost town or trying to escape a haunted house or putting the pieces together from like a lost island or something like that. Like that's the kind of scenarios I want to see that character.
I always think about the Canary Iron Bull from Dragon Age Inquisition. Like in terms of romance, because you said that before, Jake, and I was just like, huh. They did have that. It's unfortunate the way it plays out in the game as an option, but um I think you're right. Like things I would like to see is just more opportunity. Just more opportunity for the ironic expansiveness of everything that we are. I'd like to see, you know, not just villainy like tied to the fact that they're fat, because I'd like to see fat villains, but I'd like to see them be, you know, manipulative and capable and cruel and calculating rather than just like boorish and mean spirited, like the exoneration of like your high school bully or something, you know? Like I want to see clever fats, you know?
Tim, did you play Death Stranding by any chance?
No, I never got around to that one. That's is that a shooter game? Because here's the thing, I suck at first person shooter games. I've been trying to play my way through the Metroid series and I am sucking at it.
So it's not. It's it's a very triggering game because it actually came out during the pandemic during lockdown. So you're this guy. He's not fat by far, and everybody is basically doing a lockdown because nobody can leave outside because it's full of ghosts. So it's really scary to go outside, but this guy can. So this guy connects everybody that is disconnected, very much like the pandemic. So it's a little triggering. I think now that we're a little past that, it's a little less triggering, but
It probably
a
wouldn't trigger
little.
me. I had to work through the pandemic, so like I
Oh
Yeah.
got
yeah,
stuck
same.
inside.
And the thing is that so it's third person, so you don't have to like have incredible accuracy, and actually the auto aim does a lot for you. But Guillermo del Toro is a character in that game, and he is a smart fat. He is a smart fat, and is the settings in which he is in is very much tied to horror. So I think you'll enjoy that a lot. Give it a
I'll have to
chance.
check that out. You know, I talk to James about this sometimes. Like I'm so friggin' difficult when it comes to video games because like I have to be caught up in the story within the first 30 seconds. Usually you got to grab me, and then within the first couple of minutes I have to be invested in the story. And if it's not a good story, you lost me. I can't get into it. And so like I'm a person who loves my retro titles, so like I'm still going back and playing stuff from the Super Nintendo every day. Like
What is everybody playing right now? I'm playing Final Fantasy Tactics.
at the moment I'm not playing anything, but I was thinking about playing again either Final Fantasy VIII or going through Earthbound again.
Currently, I play a lot. I play a lot of Civilization 6. It's one of my favorite games of all time. I'm a huge history, geography nerd, all of that. Then otherwise, I play Teamfight Tactics, which is the League of Legends tactics game. It's really bad. I play a lot of Honkai Star Rail. I'm big into gachas. It's a problem.
So Jacob, thank you so much for that question. I just got through a few weeks ago. I'm between games. Silk Song. I just got the actual ending and all that 100% it. But it actually reminded me that the protagonist is a chubby chaser. So Hornet, when she defeats enemies, every time that she comes across a big enemy or a fluffy enemy, she describes the bigness as beauty or like as a positive trait to have in this world. And a lot of people in threads are saying like Hornet is really just a chubby chaser.
That's adorable. I am
Yeah.
forever playing Pokemon, so I'm playing Pokemon Legends ZA, and I'm playing Disney Dreamlight Valley because I need something lo-fi where I just get to chill and make things prettified. My character is as fat as the sliders will allow, which means they look skinnier than I am now. Which is not my favorite, but
Right now, I'm just trying to get through Kingdom Hearts because it's been a game that I used to play with a friend growing up, and I forgot a lot of the story. I think I only remember playing the first one just halfway through, and then just never played the whole thing. But as I got like 1, 2, and 3 on PlayStation, I might as well just start playing it. But right now, I'm just too busy playing games with friends online, specifically like a multiplayer horror game, and I'm just traumatizing them.
I need to interject here because we have had something happen that has never happened before in all the years on this podcast. My partner has interjected because he has something he would like to say. He's not going to be here, but he has texted in because he's listening and he's like, Fat Man from Metal Gear Solid 2, if that has not been discussed.
Oh, yes. Yes, he's a boss.
Yeah.
I unfortunately never played Metal Gear Solid or like context for my gaming knowledge. Not only was I born in 98, my two older first cousins didn't really play any like games, so I've never played Final Fantasy. I've never really played Metroid. I've never played Kingdom Hearts. And I know these are like huge games. Of course, I've heard about, but it's just like I never played these, and I kind of feel like I missed out a little bit, specifically with Final Fantasy because that's just like a big one.
Well, you can always pick up any Final Fantasy title and play it because they're not connected to each other. So no matter where you start in the franchise, it's a new story.
Okay.
If I were going to recommend any, 7, 8 is a personal favorite of mine, so I'm always going to recommend it.
10.
10,
What'll I do for
uh,
you?
3, and
Sorry, I just took
What's another
Jacob
one?
out immediately with that. I'm so sorry. Jacob's dead, everyone. The way you threw yourself back.
She has passed.
At that
Okay,
point in the
good. Thank
podcast, I
you.
just play that like that Sarah McLachlan. I will remember you.
For someone who loves horror games, I can't believe that I'm not thinking of any examples from Castlevania, but like there's none that are jumping out at me. But like that would be like a perfect franchise to create like a horrific fat character in. And the only thing I'm thinking of is like in Lords of Shadow, some of the monsters are like fatter, like the ogres or the giants or something like that.
The tropisms are ever present, but I like the idea of a character, as we've been saying, someone who just defies the expectations and shows that there is more to the conversation than just the expectations you place on fat people. Allow me to throw this to the group then, because we've talked around so much so far. Is there characters, tropes, video games, or just other points that around the idea of fatness and bigness in video games that we haven't really touched on yet that you all would like to bring up?
Well, I feel like there was an era of like flash games for a while there, right? Like people were writing their own flash games because it was pretty easy. And I remember through one of the Gainer forums, I found a game where it was like Feed Santa, right? And it was like really stupid things, like basically just like food would fly at him and you'd either open his mouth or not open his mouth. And every time his weight increased, like his belly would get bigger. And I think at one point, like his belt would burst. But I like there was a strange. I'm like, was that a fever dream or was there an era where a lot of people were like making these stupid little games and putting them out there?
It was
That,
like on Newground, wasn't it? Like Newground, where it was the
It's so long
space
ago,
where
I don't
all of it
remember.
was. I feel like there would have been stuff like that, like Feed Santa, Feed High School Girl, or something like that. Newground was a weird side of the internet, and it was like literally one part of my childhood.
I think something to touch on based on like fatness in video games is that like fatness, like there's a social context to fatness as well as a political context to fatness, and where they show up in video games and where those video games come from kind of help to flavor like I had talked before, like in like JRPGs and KRPGs, you don't usually see extremely fat or obese characters, and I think it might come from a cultural thing, it might come from a societal thing. In America, you see a lot, like American made games, you'll see a lot of like a lot more body positivity nowadays just because that's where the culture is heading towards. But I think the intersection of where you see and like the representation of fatness comes into play with society and politics as well. Like it's and also like there's going to be like as well as the concept of well, indie games specifically.
You know something that I'd like to see, and this is just petty and it's total, fetish slop, but I want to see it because they've done it with women. So like I used to play the Dead on Arrival series. It was another fighting game, and I remember like I think the one that came out on the like the Xbox like way back in the day had an option where you could like play volleyball with the girl characters and like you'd see their tits bounce and jiggle. Well, I want
Oh
to
my
see the
God,
same
yes.
thing with a bunch of fat boys playing volleyball, but I want to see their guts
Oh,
jiggling. I want to see their
Mm.
love handles bouncing. I want to see their titties
Ooh,
flopping.
ooh, okay, now that's something very different, right? Like all those sports games you see, like FIFA 30, 32 or, like, or basketball, whatever, right? What about variations of these games where it's like a sports compilation game, but it's all fat players? So it's fat guys playing football, it's fat girls playing volleyball, it's fat golf, it's fat everything. And you get to just enjoy playing those games as fat characters. I would be so curious, as a game system like that, where there is otherwise no reason that they should be fat, but typically people are all otherwise made to be thin. I wonder how a game like that would perform if people would really want to buy it just to play it. To be like, one, is there like some kind of secret fat thing that goes on? But two, if it's just fat people who buy it, to be like, I wanted to see myself
You've heard of
playing.
backyard
Please.
you've heard of backyard baseball? Get ready for fat yard baseball.
Yes, Fat Yard Baseball.
The
Okay.
fat yard series.
That's the name
Oh
of the
my
game.
God. That's the Fat Yard series. Come on. Actually, that sounds
NBA
really good.
slam
I'm
dunking
coining
them
that. That's
cookies.
mine. That's mine. Okay.
Okay, Shane.
Oh
That
no,
is
it's been copyrighted.
the Fat Yard series, and you know what? It all takes place in somebody's backyard. It's a very non-discriminant neighborhood somewhere in the U.S. And like there are mini games where it's like the fat guys at the grill, and that's what you use for like power-ups and healing and shit like that. Is like just like slamming drinks at the picnic table or some bullshit.
It takes place at any Midwestern state fair. Any of them.
There you go. And it's all like the different mini games that you can access, right? Like the weight trainer, the Dunkums. Oh my god.
We're just recreating carnival games.
Yeah.
Yes.
And a hilarious scene where you put too many of the super chubs on the merry-go-round, you know, the one with the chairs that, like, when it spins, it, like, swings them out sideways. And so, like, all the chains snap and they go flying. Like, terrible. But, oh, Tycoon Roller Coaster. Like one of those theme park designing games, but it's for fat characters.
Love it.
Yes. Okay. Okay. This is
So what, you
fantastic.
have to use the right building materials so that the combined weight doesn't cause the roller coaster
Precisely.
to fail?
You have to make sure
Yes.
you have to make sure the straps and everything are large enough to import to like.
Oh, so it's a safety game at this point.
It's accessibility.
A
It's about
safety
accessibility.
game. Oh.
You know what? I brought this up during one of the Warren Davis episodes. It's like OSHA needs to make an appearance to be like, this needs to be upgraded for the people. Even insofar as like, okay, I'd also love games where it's like Flight Simulator, right? All those games where it's like trains in towns and like building networks and shit. Like, why can't we have an accessible element? Why can't we make them double wide? Why can't we make it so that the passengers are more fucking comfortable? Like, there are games for everything, you know? Even like that game where it's you're a goose and you're causing havoc. Make it a fat goose, so at the very least at the end you wind up on the dining table, you know, like make it fat. Make everything fat.
Okay, I don't stand for Untitled Goose Game slander. That's one of the best games ever made in our lifetimes. That game fueled like there is no fat representation, I know, but I feel so much akin to that goose. When
It's just
truly,
adorable.
yeah, it's truly one of the best games ever created.
So you're basically saying you're a menace.
Oh, 1000%. Yeah. I'm gay and I'm in my 20s. Like, yeah, I'm a menace.
Well, this episode, I think this is one of our best. It's had it all. We've had death, we've had confessions of menacing, you know, we've got so many international bodies, we have everything here. This is just fantastic. Y'all, is there anything we want to say before we wrap things up today?
Well, I'm good. I would like to see us, I mean, fat guys just being desired in games. And not just fat, but like a skinny character going after a fat one, or just I want us to be objects of desire, just as valid as the big boobed and skinny characters or the perfect muscle characters. You know, I would love to see that.
I want to see in a cutscene, you know, some skinny little twinkish, you know, protagonist magic user character is sitting there being all pompous, and then the next thing you know, some gorgeous hunk of muscle and fat comes walking in the door, and then you see that big sweat drop like an anime, or like he gets all flustered and suddenly blushes. Like, I want to see shit like that.
I mean, I guess at the end of the day, the best representation in games for fat people will always be Dungeons and Dragons. I love D&D. My dad played first edition D&D growing up, so it's like a generational thing. When Baldur's Gate 3 fully released, you couldn't talk to me for 2 weeks. I was like, I'm busy. I've got stuff going on.
I just love that we got to show some love to the big guys today in the gaming world. They are underloved and they give good hugs, so let's love them.
I just agree with everyone. Like, this is actually so much fun. Just getting to be like, yeah, fat representation, and yes, all the things that we wanted to talk about today, but also just like, cute fat men.
And also just to get to just like nerd out about video games. Like, that's always fun. That's always a good time. Video games really. I think like growing up, like my parents never understood like, why do you watch people play video games, or like why do you like playing? I'm just like, because it's fun. Video games are fun. They're games. Game is in the name. Like they do so much for bringing community together. Like I think also at first like video games is seen as like an isolationist single player, like single person thing. When no, it's not. There's a whole community, and there are many games where like you meet people and create community.
You know, as a final thing, I'd like to add, you know, for anyone who's ever been questioned about why they like video games, or parents giving you a hard time about liking video games, even when you were growing up, nobody played that Nintendo more than my mother, because she would get ready for a business meeting or going into work or whatever it was she knew that she had to do. Hours before, she would sit down, she would play Tetris, and she would play Dr. Mario. And she was addicted to, but like, I would have to ask her if I could play the Nintendo. So like, there is something about video games that will touch even the most Midwestern mom you've ever met in your life.
You know what? Let me say this here, because I was just reminded of this talking about like Shayne watching other people play. Recently, there is a content creator I've come across called Jahara Jade, and she's been playing through Legends EA. I don't think this woman had played Pokemon before. And as any Pokemon fan knows, there's critiques that go around, there's thoughts and feelings about the new game, as there always is. This woman has been discovering these new Pokemon, and she screams and she cries and she squeals and she's so excited and so in love with them. And watching her discover Pokemon and fall in love with Pokemon is causing me to fall back in love with some Pokemon that I had completely forgotten about. Like, there is something to the energy of a person who goes into the thing with positivity and joy that just, it's intoxicating. It's wonderful. And it made me go, oh, I actually want to play it again. And so I started playing it again. So, like, there is so much joy in, like, someone's joy. And I think what these characters and motifs can do for us. So
I love her. I just being able to watch someone experience something for the first time, like when you've already experienced it before. Like I think I've seen a clip of her like sobbing over Mega Malamar, which
yes.
like to the Pokemon fans, to us, we all thought it was mid and bad. But to her, this was like the most ethereal, beautiful thing she's ever seen in her entire life. I'm just like, you know what? It touched her. That they did what they needed to do.
Another good example is Mega Starmie. We saw the leaks of what Mega Starmie was going to be, and we were all of us groaning and not looking forward to it, and we knew what it was going to be. But then the fans said, now hold on a minute. We see this ridiculous bitch running about and strutting with these legs. Actually, Mega Starmie is kind of cunt. And it flipped the script. It was no longer about this ridiculous, it looked the same but with longer legs. Suddenly, it became brilliant. So, like, positivity and joy and the community aspect within video games can really shape hearts, minds, and opinions. And I'd like to think that as we begin to round out this episode, we're talking about what we want to see in fact character representation in the future. I'd like to think that good community, good vibes can also change people's hearts and minds on fat characters and fatness in video games, and therefore in real life as well. And to which I'd like to say, thank you everyone so much for today. This was so much fucking fun. Right. Where can the listeners find each of you online?
So if you can hear me, you can find me under Jacob the Rogue or jacob.the.rogue2 on Instagram. I'm also on BlueSky. BlueSky is more fun. I do like it better than Instagram.
If you want to find me, I am on Twitter, Instagram, BlueSky, Discord, most platform with chonkycub or chonkycub25.
Well, if you guys want to find me, I'm at Instagram. I usually respond that way more. It's at Fuadito. It's like my name with a little ito at the end. And also on BlueSky, I think I'm Chunky Waton, but I rarely go. So Instagram's the place.
You can find me at hichew98 on Instagram, BlueSky, and Grommr. Those are the big three I use the most.
Listen, y'all, that is a wrap for now here on this week's episode of Thicc Radio. Please remember to like and subscribe, rate us 5 stars, leave us a good review. If you liked this episode, the podcast, our guests, or just us in general, please share it with your friends and encourage them to tune in. You can find me on Instagram and BlueSky at stannnum.
And you can find me on Instagram at thiccmouse and Grommr at Orpheus. You can also find us on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at Thicc Radio, or visit our website at podpage.com/Thicc Radio. If you'd like to become a financial supporter of the show, you can donate through our PayPal, and you can always email us at thiccradio@gmail.com. So until next time, bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Bye, Fats.
Let's talk about it.
Thicc Radio is a Spotify podcast.
Artwork, media design, editing, and production by James Heinzen.
With original theme music by CYMK.